The film opens with a surreal image. An egg yolk is injected with a mysterious green fluid, causing it to split and replicate itself. The scene then transitions to the Hollywood Walk of Fame, focusing on the star of aging celebrity Elisabeth Sparkle. Once adored by fans, Elisabeth gradually fades from the spotlight. Elisabeth hosts a television aerobics show titled Sparkle It Up. After being unable to access the women's restroom, she enters the men's room and hides upon hearing someone approach. While concealed, she overhears network president Harvey discussing plans to terminate her contract now that she has turned 50. Later, during a lunch meeting with Harvey, who sloppily devours shrimp, he officially informs her that she's been let go. On her drive home, Elisabeth is devastated to see her billboard being dismantled. Distracted, she crashes her car in a serious accident. At the doctor's office, a nurse tells her she's a perfect candidate after a routine checkup, discreetly slipping a flash drive into Elisabeth's jacket pocket. As she leaves, she runs into Fred, a former high school classmate who still sees her as the most beautiful woman in the world. Though overly enthusiastic, he gives her his number. Back home, Elisabeth views the flash drive's contents. It promotes a product called the Substance, which allows users to live as a younger, enhanced version of themselves, alternating between their original and rejuvenated bodies every 7 days. Initially skeptical, Elisabeth, feeling isolated and nostalgic for her former fame, calls the number provided. She receives an address in return. She's issued an ID card and visits a hidden facility tucked away in a shady alley. Inside, she finds a deposit box labeled with her number containing the substance. Elisabeth returns home and injects herself with the green fluid. After a period of intense pain, a large slit opens on her back, and a younger, more radiant version of herself emerges. This younger version, who adopts the name Sue, stitches the wound and applies a stabilizing fluid to both herself and Elisabeth's original body to maintain equilibrium. Sue quickly secures a job at Elisabeth's former network, impressing Harvey and basking in the renewed attention. Her first week is vibrant and full of energy. However, when Elisabeth reclaims her body, her life remains dull and uneventful. Her only notable activity is returning to the network to collect her belongings. When Sue resumes control, her show is picked up for a full-time slot, with Harvey accommodating her unusual schedule. Sue constructs a hidden room in the bathroom to store Elisabeth's unconscious body. The noise draws complaints from a neighbor, but when he sees Sue, a striking young woman, he awkwardly backs off and attempts to flirt. Later, Sue heads out for a night on the town, just hours before she's due to switch back. She brings home a man named Troy, but a nosebleed signals that her time is up. Desperate to extend her time, Sue reuses the stabilizer tube and extracts more fluid from Elisabeth's body, allowing her to remain with Troy through the night. When Elisabeth awakens, she notices her right hand has aged and deteriorated, an effect of Sue overstaying her time. Concerned, she contacts the Substance hotline. The operator informs her that the damage is irreversible and that she must maintain the balance. Sue, they remind her, is not a separate entity but a part of Elisabeth herself. After receiving a refill kit, Elisabeth visits a diner where she spots an elderly man with a birthmark identical to the nurse who first introduced her to the substance. Elisabeth is warned about the deteriorating effects of her younger self, Sue. The man questions whether Sue has begun to consume her from within. Terrified, Elisabeth flees, only to be berated by Troy, who is retrieving his motorcycle from her building. Feeling emotionally drained, she calls Fred and accepts his long-standing offer for dinner. Fred enthusiastically makes a reservation. However, just as Elisabeth finishes getting ready, she becomes fixated on the billboard for Sue's show visible from her window. She repeatedly returns to the bathroom, obsessively applying and removing makeup, growing increasingly bitter and frustrated. Ultimately, she cancels the date without informing Fred. During a taping of Sue's show, she delivers a poor performance, distracted by a strange pressure against her back. Avoiding the playback out of fear, Elisabeth retreats to the bathroom, where she pushes a lump up her leg and out through her belly button, only to discover it's a fully formed chicken leg. Frustrated, Sue calls the Substance hotline to complain about Elisabeth's excessive drinking and eating habits, which she claims are interfering with her ability to enjoy life. Later, Sue arrives at the studio only to learn her taping has been cancelled. When she confronts Harvey, he informs her that she's become so popular, the network wants her to host their New Year's Eve special. Sue agrees, extending her time away from Elisabeth far beyond the recommended limit. When Elisabeth finally returns to her body, she has aged significantly. Her legs barely function. She spends her time poring over a French cookbook, a condescending gift from Harvey, while growing resentful of Sue, especially after watching her mock Elisabeth's old show during a talk show appearance.
Control yourself!
In retaliation for Elisabeth's self-destructive habits.
Oh, disgusting!
Sue spends 3 months extracting fluid from her body, which begins to resemble an infected sore. When she attempts one final extraction, the fluid appears necrotic. She contacts the hotline and is informed that she has exceeded her permitted usage of the young body. The stabilizing fluid will reset only once she returns to Elisabeth's form. With no other option, Sue transitions back into Elisabeth's body, now grotesquely deformed and hunched. Elisabeth decides to stop using the substance, accepting that while her condition cannot be reversed, she can still live authentically. She prepares a syringe filled with black fluid intended for Sue's chest but hesitates, withdrawing before completing the injection. Sue awakens and, upon seeing Elisabeth, flies into a violent rage. She repeatedly smashes Elisabeth's face into a mirror and ultimately kills her. Sue then heads to the network to prepare for the New Year's Eve special, but her body begins to deteriorate, her front teeth fall out, fingernails detach, and her left ear slides off. Panicked, Sue rushes home and finds the vial of activator fluid, intended for a single emergency use. Believing it will restore her youthful form, she injects herself. Instead, it spawns a grotesque creature named monstrous, a horrifying fusion of limbs, teeth, breasts, and Elisabeth's face gasping from its back. Monstrous arrives at the network with a poster of Elisabeth's face taped to its front and stuffed into Sue's dress. As it approaches the stage, the poster falls, revealing its monstrous form to a stunned audience, including children. Harvey attempts to stop it, attacking with a microphone stand and even blowing off its head, but the creature regenerates. One of its arms detaches and sprays the crowd with blood, covering the studio in gore. Eventually, Monstrous exits the building but collapses outside, splattering into a mass of flesh. From this heap, Elisabeth's original face emerges, attached to a formless body. She crawls toward her Walk of Fame star, gazing upward with joy as she imagines sparkles raining down. Elisabeth smiles one final time before dissolving into a puddle of goo. By morning, a floor scrubber quietly cleans away the remains, leaving no trace of Elisabeth behind. That concludes the film. If you've made it this far, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, stay curious, and stay scared.